The conflict in Ukraine has shone a light on the UK's pre-existing energy issues. UK consumers are facing pretty massive increases to their bills. We have obviously seen a big push into solar and wind energy, but what a lot of people now say is that's not going to be enough to meet the UK's ambitious decarbonisation targets, and as a result, nuclear has come back into favour.
Bringing nuclear home with one nuclear plant and one nuclear reactor every year for 8 years rather than one a decade.
So I went to Anglesey, which is an island off the north-west coast of Wales. They have a nuclear reactor which is in the process of decommissioning, and that site is one of the top contenders for one of the first modular reactors. They're now talking about 25% of the UK's energy coming from nuclear by 2050. Anglesey has been known as one of the least productive places in the UK. That is partly because there's quite an ageing population there. A lot of retirees and a lot of young people leave to find work elsewhere. Small modular reactors are basically, as it sounds, smaller versions of traditional reactors. Importantly, they're modular, which means they can be built away from site in factories and then transported to the site. And what that does is it brings down the costs. So in the UK, the company that's looking to make these reactors is RollsRoyce. They do have experience in nuclear through their work on the UK's nuclear submarines. What the supporters say is that these are smaller than the previous technology. They're also much newer technology, and therefore they argue that there is less of a risk.
A government official said that a breakdown in an atomic power plant in Pennsylvania today is probably the worst nuclear reactor accident to date.
Nuclear has had safety concerns stretching back decades, and those aren't going away. Personally, I didn't feel any risk from that, but when we spoke to some of the experts there, obviously that safety risk is a big concern for locals. Small modular reactors are effectively an untested technology, and quite a lot of people in the industry who are maybe a bit more sceptical refer to these as PowerPoint reactors because none of them are up and running yet. But I think broadly there is quite a lot of support. The local MP ran on a platform to get the nuclear site reopened.
The majority of my constituents support Wylfa Newydd. It's recognised as the best site in the UK, possibly the world, to host a nuclear power plant.
The most powerful argument I heard for SMRs was to do with the jobs benefit. I heard from one of the sources that there are taxi drivers, for example, on Anglesey who were actually qualified nuclear engineers, but when the plant decommissioned, they didn't want to leave the local area, and so they've had to move into something else. A lot of local people have worked in nuclear, they have experience with it, they've lived near the plant. And what was really interesting is that you can see the Welsh Government has already made some efforts to support the local economy around that plant, even while it's decommissioning. So there's quite a nice cafe, there's a coastal path. So it's good to kind of see a different image of nuclear than what we might think of. The most powerful argument against, I think, is a combination of the safety and the environmental concerns. And one thing I heard from a couple of people I spoke to was a sense that the Westminster government is quite happy to encourage nuclear in places that are quite far away from London. A sense that they'll put it in Wales, but they won't put it on their own back door.